I know. Another series? This is the third one, and you've posted like 12 videos. I know. I'm sorry. But hey, I just think this would be really interesting if I covered what I would think what would happen in an alternate future of the world. Starting off, obviously we have the Russo-Ukrainian War, and Poland. Yeah, they're just chilling. They're scared. They're just chilling. But yeah, this is what I think the areas look like. This is what I remember. And I know Ukraine had some small incursions into Russia, or small invasions into Russia. But sorry if this is not accurate. But we'll just be covering a few wars and some ceasefires and a few things. But yeah, jumping right in, it's February 2nd, 2026, and we are going to be seeing Ukraine making a massive invasion in Russia. And this offensive lasts 10 days, so it's the 26th now, 16th now, but they also begin to do tons of damage to Russian infrastructure, and they just begin to win in this front. But with this, Russia is going to deciding to cause a new front up here, and they're like, if we could just get to Kiev and we could threaten Ukraine, Ukraine's capital, then they should retreat up here, and they should be able to take us back here, but we will have some land. So their plan is just to kick Ukraine out and lose this area, keeping the rest. But down here, we see a massive Ukrainian counteroffensive, and they are going to encircle 50,000 Russian troops. It takes a month, but they're able to knock it out. And instead of being slow, these countries are like, yeah, we should probably start ramping it up. But Russian troops continue to make an attack, and it gets to a point where they encircle 37,000 Ukrainian troops. Some troops try to flee to Belarus, but it's too late, as this area just crumbles, and they're closer than ever to Kiev, as they begin to start taking the city. But Ukraine is like, this would be a wonderful time to retake Donetsk, and in the massive battle of Donetsk, or however you say it, I don't know if it's right here, it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere over here, but I don't really know. I'm just gonna put it right here for obvious reasons. And with the Ukrainians regaining the city, this is gonna cause a massive morale loss for Russia, and that also lets Russia start an invasion. That also lets Ukraine, start a counteroffensive into Russian territory. But something happens, because right here there are approximately 40,000 troops, and Ukraine just encircled them 41. Because this is 4 times the amount of troops Ukraine had in both of these both here. So it's actually 2 to 4, but yeah. As that falls, Russia begins to lose tons of morale for this war, especially when Ukraine starts to win in some fronts. And the invasion is repelled, but looking at this, it's starting to look very good for Ukraine. But when things start to look up, everything begins to crash down, as Belarus decides to launch an operation into Ukraine, sending tons of Russian troops that were stationed here, preparing for this moment. And also, a little side thing, we are going to be giving Lucasville independence. And I don't know where their capital would be, but I'm just going to put it in the middle, because that just looks right. And, yeah, with still getting independent. So, new flag we have to learn, but that's okay. Unless you already know it, which I don't know it personally. But yeah, Belarusian and Russian troops began to make the operation into Ukraine, and with troops in areas that Ukraine never thought Russia would get to, yeah, it's starting to not look that good for the Ukrainians, especially when they almost get cut off here. But the Ukrainians, seeing an opportunity to kill as many Russian troops as possible, the UN is like, whoa, Ukraine, don't do it. Don't do it, Ukraine. But they do it as they decide to go up here. As these front lines are weak. Like, everything right here is weak. It's not that strong, mostly because the Russians are focusing on taking this, and if they're able to do that, this area will fall very quickly, and then Ukraine will fall. And that's what the Russians want. But the Ukrainians are not going to let that happen, as they encircle all of these Russian troops, and they begin to show no mercy, as they kill tons of Russian troops, and Russia is at a massive morale loss, while the Ukrainians are like, yeah, that's my country, that's my country. But yeah, we see Ukrainian troops finally starting to meet up with this area. As they're able to take the Sea of Abkhazia. I don't know what it's called. Abkhazia, I think it is. Sorry to say that. But Ukraine slowly but surely begins closing on these troops as they slowly begin to flee to Crimea. And then this area gets knocked out. But we see something happening in Moldova. Why am I forgetting her name? As Transnistria decides to declare their independence and declare war on Ukraine. So instead of focusing on their own country, and like fighting the civil war that they're fighting, they are going to send troops into Ukraine, and they meet up with this river. I know this wouldn't happen, but Ukraine wasn't expecting an invasion from over here. But Ukraine, seeing a perfect opportunity to gain an ally in Moldova, they send troops into this area, and they say, hey, we will give you a very small chunk of land there. We'll give you a very small chunk of land right here, and possibly give you coastline if you let us keep Transnistria. And that deal is made, and both these countries, and also if they join the war. But yeah, with another country getting involved, Russia's like, God. But they're like, if the Ukrainians are fighting down here, are they fighting up here? They do not invade their own land, liberate it, as troops swiftly flood in, and Americans are like, why is this happening so quickly now? And yes, Ukraine, you lose that. But Russian troops also deciding to make the re-invasion of Crimea, as they're able to meet up with this land. And with Moldovan troops finally starting to arrive, they begin to kick back. They're going to kick back these areas. It's a very small portion, but we're doing it. How long has this video been going on? 9 minutes. But the Russians deciding to end this war, they're like, I declare full-on war in Ukraine. As when they do this, the UN is like, whoa, no, you can't do this. No, the United Nations will not allow this. But Russia says, what is the UN going to do about it? Sanction me? I've already gone through tons of sanctions. So the Russians begin to get very cocky with the United Nations, and especially when they start to invade Moldova, that's when the United Nations is like, pull out Moldova, and we will do nothing about it. You just pull out of Moldova. But when they don't, and with this area being encircled, this area will quickly fall. But when the Russians don't, and they begin to send more troops, Romania decides to join this war on the side of Moldova, because they are not going to let Moldova fall like that. But the Russians send their troops in, and when they begin to lose some provinces, they're like, okay, I'll leave. The Russians do keep occupying over this land, and and then troops slowly get to Kiev, and then Kiev falls. Yeah, did you think I'd let Ukraine win this war? No, we're not going to win this war. If something happened, Ukraine would not win, no matter what. I'm sorry, Ukraine. Unless the United Nations actually does something for once, you're cooked, my friend. You're cooked. So, so why are you doing this? No! Please stop. Even though that island will probably never be touched again. Same thing with this one. I just hate it. No! Leave, bro, please. I don't like it. Okay, we done? Okay, that's good. But, yeah, let's start getting to the treaty. So, Russia decides, since Belarus was such a big part of this war, you are going to be gaining tons of Ukrainian land. And since you're my buffer state with Europe, you are going to be expanding your border with Poland heavily. So this is what but Belarus gets, as they get not a lot of important land, but they are looking way uglier. I hate this. But going down to what is going to happen in Ukraine, first of all, Russia is going to fully annex Ukraine. It's pretty obvious, I think. But Romania is going to be losing their coast, and one small province up here. So Romania is going to be losing all of this, but in the meanwhile, they will be gaining this from Moldova, because the Russians were like, we're not going to take all Moldova. Our war score is not that high. But, yeah, the Russians are the real successors here, as they really just weaken NATO, as they have, and they also strengthened themselves and weakened NATO. No, not there. Oh yeah, and also rivers. I forgot. I have rivers. But the CSTO, does it expand? No. But yeah, we have the CSTO and NATO. But the reason NATO didn't get involved is because Romania voluntarily joined the war, and NATO was like, we ain't going to war with Russia right now. But yeah, with Russia gaining all of this land and the international community losing 2 countries, the UN is like, yeah, I don't like you anymore, Russia. But yeah, but Russia is now spreading into lands that they have officially never gained before, I don't think. But remember, this is alternate. This is not what I think would happen. I mean, it is. But, yeah, anyways. we're going to be going down to here. And where are we going to be going? To this region of Africa. Because we're finally going to be seeing that union. Yay, clap it up. Clap it up. Finally, this union is going to happen. As the East African Federation is going to form. After, after a long time, we see, all of these countries finally deciding to unite. And it's time. I'm just going to say that. It's beautiful. And the capital is going to be put right here. I don't know why, but I just like it. And yeah, with their capital being put right there, it is going to help with the trade, a lot. But with the UN is losing tons of countries, but it's fine. But I guess that would be it for this video. But hey, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe. I'm probably going to make Alternate Future of the World a series. But yeah, we saw the East African Federation and the Russo-Ukrainian War come to an end. And we also saw NATO get weaker. But hey, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe. You don't have to, of course. But anyways, bye.